Dr. Natalie Rhodes hadn't slept properly in 3 days. The quantum readings on her monitor defied everything she knew about physics, everything she'd spent her career studying. She rubbed her tired eyes, the soft blue glow of multiple screens casting shadows across her face in the dimly lit laboratory at MIT's Advanced Physics Department. "This can't be right," she muttered, running the calculations for the 7th time. The numbers didn't lie. Something was causing unprecedented fluctuations in the quantum field, creating patterns that shouldn't exist in nature. Her phone buzzed. A text from Marcus Thorne, "Turn on the news now." Natalie switched one of her monitors to a news feed, and her coffee mug slipped from her fingers, shattering on the floor. Over Tokyo, the sky had torn. There was no other word for it. A massive, shimmering rupture hung in the air like a wound in reality itself, edges rippling with impossible colors. "Dr. Rhodes," Officer Jun Park burst through the laboratory doors, his usually composed demeanor shaken. As head of campus security, he rarely visited the physics department, but now his face was ashen. "We need to evacuate. We're getting reports of similar phenomena appearing across the East Coast." Natalie's fingers flew across her keyboard, saving data. "I can't leave, Jun, these readings. They're connected to what's happening. We might be witnessing the most significant event in human history." Marcus Thorne arrived minutes later, his military training evident in his efficient movements as he assessed the situation. His dark eyes scanned the laboratory before settling on Natalie. "I've seen this before," he said quietly. Both Natalie and Jun turned to him. "What do you mean?" Natalie asked. Marcus ran a hand through his silver-streaked black hair. "In my dreams. For the past month, I've been dreaming of tears in the sky. I thought I was losing it, but then I started finding others online who were having the same dreams." Natalie's heart raced. "The shared dreams? They're connected to the quantum fluctuations I've been tracking. It's as if reality itself is becoming more permeable." A deep rumble shook the building. Through the laboratory's wide windows, they watched as the sky above Boston began to shimmer with an otherworldly light. "We need to get to the Metropolitan Museum," Marcus said suddenly. "The museum? Why?" Jun asked, his hand instinctively moving to his service weapon. "Because in every dream it starts there. Something's been found in the Egyptian wing, something that doesn't belong in this world." Natalie quickly packed her portable equipment. "The quantum signatures are strongest in that direction," she confirmed, checking her readings. "Whatever's causing this, the museum might be ground zero." They took Jun's police cruiser, racing through streets that were quickly descending into chaos. People stood in the streets, pointing at the sky where more tiers were beginning to form. Traffic had ground to a halt in some areas, forcing Jun to navigate through side streets and alleys. The museum loomed before them, its grand architecture now seeming ominous under the strange light. As they approached the entrance, Natalie's equipment began emitting a high-pitched whine. "The readings are off the scale," she said, adjusting dials frantically. "There's some kind of energy building up inside." Marcus moved ahead, his military training evident in his careful approach. "The dreams always led to the Egyptian wing, something about a new artifact they found last week." They found the wing deserted, display cases casting long shadows in the emergency lighting. In the center of the room, a new exhibition had been set up. A single pedestal holding what appeared to be a crystalline sphere about the size of a basketball. "That's not Egyptian," Jun said, stating the obvious. The sphere seemed to pulse with an inner light, patterns swirling beneath its surface like living smoke. Natalie approached it slowly, her instruments going haywire. "The energy signature. It's identical to the tiers in the sky. This object, it's like a key or maybe a beacon." Marcus reached out toward the sphere, then jerked his hand back as if burned. "I've seen this exact moment," he whispered. "In the dreams, this is when they come through." "When who comes through?" Jun asked, drawing his weapon. The sphere's pulsing intensified, and the air in the room began to feel thick, charged with potential. Natalie's readings showed energy levels climbing exponentially. "Everyone get back," she shouted, but her warning came too late. The sphere erupted with light, and reality itself seemed to fold inward. Through the tier that formed above the artifact, they caught their first glimpse of what lay beyond, a world of crystalline spires and impossible architecture, where the laws of physics seemed more like suggestions. And something was coming through. Natalie's scientific mind struggled to process what she was seeing. The figure that emerged was humanoid, but clearly not human. Its form seemed to shift and flow like liquid mercury, and its eyes held the depth of galaxies. "We have been watching," it said, its voice resonating not through the air but directly in their minds. "The convergence has begun." Marcus stepped forward, his stance protective. "What convergence?" "The reunification of what was separated eons ago. Your world and ours. Your dreams were memories, echoes of a time before the division." Natalie's equipment sparked and died, but she hardly noticed. Her mind was racing with implications. "You're saying our worlds were once one? That humanity is far more than you believe yourselves to be," the being completed her thought. "The sphere is not just a beacon, it is a key to awakening what lies dormant in your species. The tears in reality are not a catastrophe, they are the beginning of your evolution." Jun lowered his weapon slowly. "Why now? Why is this happening at this moment?" The being's form rippled. "Because time itself is converging. The great cycle nears its completion. You will need to choose, remain as you are and face extinction, or embrace the change and become what you were always meant to be." More tiers were forming now, visible through the museum's windows. The sky over New York had become a canvas of shattered reality, each tier offering glimpses of that other world. Natalie thought of her research, of the quantum patterns that had seemed so impossible. The dreams, the tears, the quantum fluctuations, they're all part of some kind of universal alignment. "Yes," the being confirmed. "And you, Natalie Rhodes, have been measuring its approach without knowing it. Your species stands at a crossroads. What comes next will depend on how you face the truth about yourselves." Marcus touched the sphere gently, and this time it didn't burn. "In my dreams, I saw what happens next, the wars, the chaos, but also the transformation." "The path will not be easy," the being acknowledged. "But it is necessary. The separation was never meant to be permanent." Through the tears in reality, more beings were emerging now, some similar to their visitor, others wildly different. Above them, the sky continued to fracture, each tier a window into a world that challenged everything humanity thought it knew about reality. Natalie looked at her companions, Marcus with his prophetic dreams, Jun with his unwavering dedication to protection, and herself with her scientific understanding that was being rewritten by the second. They were among the first to witness the beginning of something that would change humanity forever. "What do we do now?" Jun asked, his voice steady despite the impossibility of their situation. The being's form shifted, becoming more distinctly humanoid. "Now you help your species understand what is coming. The convergence cannot be stopped, but it can be guided. That is why we have chosen to make first contact here with those who might help bridge the gap between what humanity is and what it must become." Natalie squared her shoulders, her scientific mind already adapting to this new paradigm. "Then we'll need to understand everything about your world, about what humanity really is, about these changes." "Understanding will come," the being assured them. "But first, you must survive what follows. The tears are only the beginning. There are those among both our kinds who will resist the convergence, who will fight to maintain the separation. They do not understand that it will mean the end of both our worlds." Outside, sirens wailed as military jets screamed across the fractured sky. The world as they knew it was ending, but perhaps, Natalie thought, something greater was beginning. The being extended its shifting form toward the sphere. "Take it. You will need it in the days to come. It is more than a beacon, it is a tool, a weapon, and a key to awakening what lies dormant in your species." As Marcus carefully lifted the sphere from its pedestal, Natalie's mind was already racing with questions, theories, and possibilities. The greatest scientific adventure in human history was beginning, and they were at its heart. The convergence had begun, and nothing would ever be the same. Professor Dmitry Volkov's hands trembled as he brushed dust from the ancient tablet. The archaeological dig in Turkey had yielded many artifacts over the past month, but this was different. The symbols carved into its surface weren't like anything he'd seen in his 30 years of studying ancient civilizations. Professor, Zara Hassan's voice echoed through the tunnel. The young journalist had been documenting the dig for Al Jazeera when the sky first tore open 3 days ago. Now she was running toward him, her camera bouncing against her hip. "They've found another one." Dmitry carefully set down the tablet and followed Zara through the winding underground passages. The dig site's emergency generators cast harsh shadows on the walls, making the ancient stones seem to shift and move. They emerged into a larger chamber where Captain Amara Phillips of the UN peacekeeping force was directing her team to secure the area. The military presence at archaeological sites had become standard protocol since the tiers began appearing worldwide. "Professor Volkov," Amara called out, her dark skin gleaming with sweat under the portable lights. "We need your expertise on this." In the center of the chamber stood what appeared to be a monolith, its surface covered in the same unusual symbols as the tablet. But what caught Dmitry's attention was the way it seemed to hum with an inner light, pulsing in sync with the tiers visible in the sky above through the chamber's collapsed ceiling. "It's responding to them," Zara breathed, raising her camera, "just like the others." Over the past 72 hours, similar structures had been discovered at archaeological sites across the globe, in Egypt, Peru, Cambodia, and now Turkey. Each one had lain dormant for millennia until the tiers appeared. Dmitry approached the monolith carefully, his expert eye noting details that others might miss. "These symbols, they're not just decorative. They're mathematical equations mixed with what appears to be star charts." "Can you read them?" Amara asked, her hand resting on her sidearm. After the incident at the Metropolitan Museum in New York, everyone was on edge about ancient artifacts. "Not exactly," Dmitry admitted, "but look at this sequence here." He pointed to a series of intricate markings. "It repeats on every artifact we've found, and now I know why it seemed familiar." He pulled out his tablet, bringing up an image of the night sky. "These aren't just star charts, they're predictions. They show the exact celestial alignment we're experiencing right now." Zara lowered her camera. "Are you saying someone thousands of years ago knew this was going to happen?" "Not someone," a new voice echoed through the chamber. "Something." They turned to find a figure standing in the shadows, tall, ethereal, its form shifting like smoke. Unlike the being that had emerged in New York, this one seemed older, more substantial. Captain Phillips raised her weapon, but Dmitry held up his hand. "Wait, look at the monolith." The structure's pulsing had intensified, its symbols now glowing with the same otherworldly light that emanated from the tiers in reality. "I am the Harbinger," the being said, its voice resonating in their minds rather than their ears. "We placed these markers across your world during the First Age before the separation." "First Age?" Zara asked, her journalist's instincts overriding her fear. "What separation?" The being moved closer, its form becoming more defined, almost human, but with features that seemed to shift and change like water. "When the realms were one before the Great Divide. Your kind and ours lived as equals, sharing knowledge and power. But there were those who feared what we might become together." Dmitry's mind raced. The myths. Every culture has stories of gods walking among humans, of magic and powers beyond understanding. They weren't myths at all, were they? "Memories," the Harbinger confirmed. "Passed down through generations, growing fainter with each telling. But the truth was preserved in places like this, waiting to be discovered when the time of convergence returned." Captain Phillips lowered her weapon slowly. "The beings in New York spoke of a choice humanity needs to make. Is that why you're here?" "I am here to warn," the Harbinger's form flickered. "The choice you face is not as simple as it seems. There are forces in both realms that would use the convergence for their own ends. The very nature of reality hangs in the balance." The ground trembled, and through the tiers visible above, they caught glimpses of battles being fought in that other world. beings of light and shadow clashing among crystalline spires. Your world is awakening, the Harbinger continued. The dormant potential in your species stirs. Some will manifest abilities that your ancestors once wielded freely. Others will resist the change, seeing it as a threat to what they believe makes them human. As if to emphasize its point, one of the soldiers suddenly gasped, his hands beginning to glow with an inner light. Captain Phillips rushed to his side as he stared in wonder at the energy dancing across his skin. It's happening faster than we anticipated, the Harbinger observed. The presence of the markers accelerates the process. Zara's camera whirred as she documented everything. The public needs to know about this. People are scared, looking for answers. Knowledge is power, the Harbinger agreed, but it can also be dangerous. There are truths about your origins, about what humanity truly is, that could shatter societies if revealed too quickly. Dmitri turned back to the monolith, his trained eye seeing the symbols in a new light. These aren't just predictions or warnings, are they? They're instructions. A guide, the Harbinger confirmed, for those who would shepherd humanity through the convergence. The markers contain knowledge you will need, sciences beyond your current understanding, the principles of energy manipulation, the true history of your world. Captain Phillips had helped her soldier to his feet, the glow around his hands now fading. And what about the tears themselves? Are they stable? Will they continue to spread? The tears are doorways, but also symptoms of a larger process. Reality itself is healing, attempting to restore what was artificially divided. But the process is dangerous. Without guidance, the merging of realms could destroy both. The ground shook again, more violently this time. Through the tiers above, they could see more beings emerging, some benevolent, others clearly hostile. You must prepare, the Harbinger warned. What happens in the next few days will determine the fate of both realms. The markers will help you understand, but time is short. Dmitri looked at his companions, Zara with her commitment to truth, Captain Phillips with her duty to protect, and his own drive to understand the past. They were all part of something far larger than themselves. The tablet I found, he said suddenly. It mentions a gathering, doesn't it? A convergence of chosen individuals from both realms. The Harbinger's form brightened. Yes, even now they are being drawn together. The scientist in New York, the warrior who dreams true, the awakening ones like your soldier, they all have roles to play. And us, Zara asked. You are the keepers of knowledge, the Harbinger said. What you learn here, what you choose to share, and how you share it will help determine how humanity faces what is to come. As if in response to these words, the monolith's glow intensified, and symbols began to rise from its surface, floating in the air like holographic projections. They showed images of the past, of humanity's true history, and glimpses of possible futures. Watch, the Harbinger commanded. Learn, and choose wisely what you reveal. The time of convergence is upon us, but the path it takes, whether it leads to destruction or transcendence, rests in hands like yours. The chamber filled with light as the monolith's knowledge began to download into their minds. Through the tiers in reality above, both worlds held their breath, waiting to see what humanity would choose to become. The Harbinger's warning had been delivered. Now the real work would begin. Commander James Rivera stood at the command center of the newly formed Global Defense Initiative, watching as holographic displays tracked tiers in reality appearing across the planet. 1 week had passed since the first contact at the Metropolitan Museum, and the world had changed more in those 7 days than in the previous 1,000 years. Sir, Dr. Kara O'Brien called from her station, her fingers dancing across multiple screens. We're detecting a new energy signature from the Sydney tier. It's different from the others. The xenobiologist had been recruited from CERN after she correctly predicted the pattern of tier formations using quantum mechanics that shouldn't have worked according to known physics. Now, she was the GDI's leading expert on the physiological changes occurring in the human population. Different how? Rivera asked, moving to her station. Before she could answer, a new figure materialized in the center of the command center, tall, crystalline. with features that seemed to shift between human and something else entirely. Unlike the other beings they'd encountered, this one wore what appeared to be armor made of living light. "I am Guardian Rylan," it announced, its voice carrying an otherworldly resonance. "And I come with a warning and an offer." Security teams surrounded the being, weapons raised, but Rivera held up his hand. "Stand down. If it wanted to harm us, we'd already be dead." Ryland's form solidified slightly, becoming more humanoid. "You understand more than most of your kind, Commander. The war that's coming requires such wisdom." "War," Kara stepped forward, her scientific curiosity overriding protocol. "The Harbinger spoke of resistance to the convergence, but not war." "The Harbinger speaks of possibilities," Ryland said. "I speak of what is already happening. Look." With a gesture, the being created a three-dimensional image in the air, a battle being fought in a realm of crystalline spires and impossible geometry. Beings of pure energy clashed with others that seemed made of shadow and void. "The Void Collective," Rylan explained. "They believe the separation of realms should be permanent, that the convergence will destroy both worlds rather than heal them. They're wrong, but they're powerful, and they have allies in your world." Rivera's tactical mind quickly grasped the implications. "The enhanced humans, some are working with these void beings." "Yes, just as some of us have chosen to help guide humanity through the awakening, others seek to prevent it. Even now, they gather their forces." Kara pulled up data on her screens. "The physiological changes we've been tracking, they're accelerating. In the past 24 hours alone, we've confirmed over 1,000 cases of humans manifesting abilities." "The first wave of awakening," Rylan confirmed. "But it's happening too fast, too chaotically. Without proper guidance, many will lose control. Others will be targeted by the Void Collective." A new alarm blared through the command center. One of the operators called out, "Sir, multiple hostile contacts emerging from the Beijing tier." The holographic displays showed dark figures pouring through the reality tier, their forms seeming to absorb light itself. Chinese military forces were engaging them, but conventional weapons passed right through their shadowy bodies. "They're beginning their push," Rylan said grimly. "Commander, my offer is this. Let me help train your enhanced humans. Teach them to control their awakening abilities before they destroy themselves or others." Rivera studied the tactical displays, his military experience warring with the sheer impossibility of what they faced. "And in return, you help us fight what's coming. The Void Collective doesn't just want to stop the convergence. They want to ensure it can never happen again. Their solution is to destroy both realms entirely." Kara's screens flashed with new data. "Commander, we're detecting similar energy signatures at tiers in Moscow, Cairo, and Rio de Janeiro. Whatever's happening in Beijing, it's coordinated." Rivera made his decision. "Dr. O'Brien, begin gathering all enhanced individuals we've identified, priority on military personnel who have manifested abilities." He turned to Rylan. "How do we fight beings we can't even touch?" The Guardian's form shifted, and suddenly it held what appeared to be weapons made of pure energy. "With these, your technology combined with our understanding of energy manipulation, Dr. O'Brien's quantum theories are already halfway there." Kara's eyes widened as she studied the weapons. "The mathematical principles, they're similar to what we found in the ancient markers." "Because they were left there for exactly this purpose," Rylan confirmed. "Your ancestors knew this time would come. They prepared for it as best they could." The command center shook as a new tier opened directly above the facility. But instead of darkness, this one shimmered with pure light. More Guardians emerged, each carrying similar energy weapons. "Your world is remembering what it once was," Rylan said. "Those who manifest abilities are not becoming something new, they're remembering what humanity used to be, what you can be again." Rivera watched as the first enhanced soldiers were brought into the command center, men and women whose bodies now coursed with otherworldly energy, their eyes glowing with newfound power. Among them was the soldier from Turkey who had first manifested abilities near the ancient marker. "Begin the training," Rivera ordered. Dr. O'Brien, work with Rylan to understand these changes. I want to know everything, how it happens, why some people manifest abilities while others don't, and most importantly, how to control it. The process can be guided, Rylan explained, moving to examine the enhanced humans. Your DNA contains dormant sequences left over from the time before the separation. The tears in reality are activating them, but the process can be stabilized, controlled. One of the enhanced soldiers, a young woman named Jennifer Cole, stepped forward, her hands wreathed in energy that matched the Guardian's weapons. "I've been dreaming of this," she said. "Not just the abilities, but this moment, standing with beings from another realm, preparing for a war to save both worlds." "The dreams are memories," Rylan said. "Echoes of what was and what could be again. They're also warnings. The Void Collective will target dreamers first. They're usually the strongest among you." The tactical displays showed the battles in Beijing intensifying. The Chinese military was falling back, unable to harm the shadow beings. But now, reports were coming in of enhanced humans there too, manifesting abilities in response to the threat. "How long do we have?" Rivera asked, watching the situation unfold. "Days, perhaps," Rylan answered. "The Void Collective has waited eons for this moment. They won't waste time now that they've begun their attack." Kara's instruments were recording everything, her scientific mind working to understand the processes they were witnessing. The energy signatures of the enhanced humans. They're becoming more stable, more focused. It's like their bodies are remembering a natural state. "Because this is natural," Rylan confirmed. "The separation of realms was artificial, a desperate measure taken during a war even greater than the one we face now. Humanity agreed to forget what they were, to become less than their true selves in order to protect both worlds." Rivera watched as the Guardians began working with the enhanced soldiers, teaching them to control their abilities. Energy weapons were distributed, their designs a perfect fusion of human technology and otherworldly power. "Dr. O'Brien," he called, "begin analyzing those weapons. I want to understand exactly how they work and if we can reproduce them." "Already on it," she replied, her instruments scanning the energy signatures. "The principles are fascinating. They're not just weapons. They're tools for manipulating the quantum fabric of reality itself." Another alarm sounded, more tiers opening, more shadow beings emerging. But now the enhanced humans were ready. Under the Guardian's guidance, they were learning to access abilities that had lain dormant in their genes for millennia. "Send word to all GDI bases," Rivera ordered. "We begin worldwide deployment of enhanced units immediately, priority on tiers showing Void Collective activity." He turned to Rylan. "I hope your training methods work fast." "They'll remember faster than you think," the Guardian assured him. "The knowledge is there, written into their very beings. They just need to be reminded." As if to prove his point, Jennifer Cole had already mastered creating energy shields, while others were learning to channel power in ways that seemed to defy physics itself. The war for reality had begun, and humanity was finally remembering its true nature. The question was, would they remember fast enough to save both worlds? Through the tiers in reality, both shadow and light gathered their forces. The ancient markers hummed with power, awakening more humans with each passing hour. And in the command center of the Global Defense Initiative, Commander Rivera watched as history's greatest battle began to unfold. The convergence of realms had become a war for existence itself, and humanity was caught in the middle, slowly awakening to powers they had forgotten they possessed. The next few days would determine not just the fate of Earth, but the very nature of reality itself. Scholar Cassandra Way stood at the edge of the massive ice cavern, her breath forming clouds in the frigid Antarctic air. The ancient city spread out before her like something from a dream. Crystalline spires and impossible architecture preserved perfectly in the ice for what must have been millennia. "It's exactly as the markers showed us," she whispered, her enhanced vision allowing her to see energy patterns flowing through the frozen structures. Since her awakening 2 weeks ago, she had discovered she could read the ancient languages as if they were her native tongue. General Victor Drake moved to stand beside her, his tactical armor equipped with the latest hybrid technology, a fusion of human engineering and Guardian energy manipulation. The Void Collective will be coming. They know what this place means. Behind them, Guardian Talon emerged from a tier in reality, its crystalline form dimmer than usual after the latest battle in Beijing. They're already on their way. We detected multiple Void signatures moving through the Shadow Realm toward this location. The discovery of the city had been no accident. As more humans awakened to their dormant abilities, the ancient markers had begun revealing their deeper purposes. They weren't just warnings or repositories of knowledge. They were keys to finding this place. "Begin the activation sequence," Cassandra ordered, her voice carrying the weight of her newfound authority. In the past 2 weeks, she had gone from being a linguistics professor to one of the most important figures in humanity's transformation. Teams of scientists and enhanced humans moved through the frozen city, placing energy conductors at specific points marked in the ancient texts. Each device was a marriage of human technology and Guardian engineering, designed to interface with the city's dormant systems. "General Drake," Talon called out, its form shifting anxiously. "We're detecting unusual energy patterns from the Soul Tier. The Void Collective is trying something new." Drake accessed the tactical display built into his armor's heads-up display. The situation in Soul showed shadow beings merging with human collaborators, those who feared the chain, and had chosen to side with the forces trying to prevent the convergence. "How long until they reach us?" Drake asked. "Hours at most," Talon replied. "They'll use the Shadow Realm to bypass our orbital defenses." Cassandra moved deeper into the city, her enhanced senses guiding her toward what she knew must be the central chamber. The ice here was different, not natural formation, but rather a deliberate preservation system. "This isn't just a city," she said, running her hand along a wall encoded with flowing symbols. "It's a machine. The entire complex is one vast mechanism." "For what purpose?" Drake asked, following close behind. "To restore what was lost," a new voice echoed through the chamber. A figure emerged from the ice itself, not a guardian or a void being, but something older, more fundamental to reality. "Preserver," Talon said, bowing slightly. "We didn't know any of your kind still existed." The being's form was hard to look at directly, as if it existed in more dimensions than human eyes could process. "I have waited here since the Sundering, maintaining the great machine until it was needed again." Cassandra's enhanced mind rapidly processed the implications. The separation of realms, it wasn't just a division of worlds. It was a division of consciousness itself, wasn't it? Humanity agreed to forget, to become less than what they were. "To protect both realms," the Preserver confirmed. "The war that led to the Sundering threatened to destroy everything. The division was meant to be temporary, a chance for both sides to heal, to evolve separately before coming together again." "But the Void Collective wants to make the separation permanent," Drake said, understanding dawning. "They believe the convergence will lead to the same conflicts that caused the original division." "They are afraid," the Preserver said. "Fear drives them to extremes, but the separation cannot be maintained any longer. Reality itself rebels against the artificial division. The tiers are symptoms of natural forces reasserting themselves." The ground shook as another energy conductor came online. Throughout the city, ancient systems began to awaken, their purpose finally clear after eons of dormancy. "This place," Cassandra said, reading the symbols that now glowed with inner light, "it's not just a machine to restore what was lost. It's a template, a pattern for what humanity is meant to become." "Yes," the Preserver confirmed. "Your bodies contain the dormant potential, but awakening it too quickly leads to instability. This city was designed to guide the process, to help humanity remember gradually, safely." Alarms blared through Drake's tactical systems. Multiple void signatures detected. They're coming through. The ice above the city cracked as reality tiers opened, spilling shadow beings and their human allies into the cavern. But these weren't like the beings they'd fought before. These shadows had substance, purpose, and a cold intelligence that radiated ancient hatred. "Protect the conductors," Cassandra shouted, her body beginning to glow with awakened power. "The sequence has to complete." Drake's hybrid weapons came online as his own enhanced abilities manifested, the ability to see tactical possibilities, to understand patterns of movement and energy in ways that transcended normal human perception. His soldiers moved with supernatural coordination, their training enhanced by awakening powers. Guardian Talon launched into battle alongside them, its crystalline form projecting shields of pure energy. But the Void Collective had learned from previous encounters. Their shadows moved like liquid darkness, seeking weak points in the defenses. "The machine must not be activated," one of the shadow beings spoke, its voice like breaking glass. "The realms must remain separate or all will be lost again." The Preserver moved to the center of the chamber, its form expanding. "You fear what you do not understand. The separation was never meant to be permanent. Look into yourselves, you feel the wrongness of it, the strain against nature itself." Cassandra reached the central control array, her enhanced mind interfacing with the ancient systems. Symbols and patterns flowed through her consciousness, showing her what needed to be done. "General," she called out, "we need 10 minutes. The sequence is already past the critical point. Interrupting it now would tear both realms apart." Drake understood. His tactical systems highlighted key defensive positions, and he deployed his forces with enhanced precision. 10 minutes, hold them back. The battle that followed would be spoken of for generations to come. Enhanced humans fought alongside guardians against the shadows of the Void Collective. Energy weapons pierced the darkness, while ancient powers awakened in the heat of combat. The Preserver moved through the chaos like living light, its presence strengthening the defenders while weakening the shadows. But the Void Collective was ancient and powerful, driven by fear and conviction. "Look," Talon called out suddenly. Through the tiers in reality above the city, they could see the sky changing. The artificial barriers between realms were beginning to dissolve naturally, the universe itself seeming to sigh in relief. "It's happening," Cassandra said, her hands dancing over the control array. "The template is activating. Every human on Earth will feel it, the remembering." The shadows pressed their attack desperately now, realizing what was at stake. But with each passing moment, more of the defenders awakened to new abilities, their bodies and minds remembering what they were always meant to be. Drake found himself moving with impossible speed and precision, his tactical insights becoming reality-altering powers. Around him, his soldiers were transforming, becoming more than human, yet somehow more truly human than ever before. 1 minute, Cassandra called out. The city's spires were fully awake now, pulsing with power that reached toward the tiers in reality. The Preserver's form expanded to fill the chamber. "The choice is made, the pattern is set, what was sundered will be restored." Light exploded from the central array, racing through the conductors and up through the city's spires. The Void Collective screamed in defiance, but it was too late. Above them, through the tiers in reality, they could see both realms beginning to align naturally, the artificial barriers dissolving. The template of transformation reached out across the earth, touching every human mind, every strand of DNA that contained the dormant potential of what humanity had once been. The hidden city had awakened, and with it, the true nature of humanity was beginning to stir. The war wasn't over, the Void Collective would not give up easily, but the path to convergence had been set. As the light faded, Cassandra looked at her companions. Drake, with his tactical genius, evolved into reality-shaping power. Talon, with its unwavering dedication to both realms, and the Preserver who had waited eons for this moment. The next phase of the transformation had begun. Humanity was remembering what it had chosen to forget, and the universe itself seemed to breathe easier as artificial divisions began to heal. Through the tiers in reality, both realms watched and waited to see what humanity would become. The sky above Earth had become a kaleidoscope of reality tiers, each one a window into the crystalline realm that had once been one with our own. Dr. Natalie Rhodes stood atop the Global Defense Initiative's headquarters, watching as the transformation she had first detected in quantum readings spread across the planet. "The template is working," Marcus Thorne said beside her, his prophetic dreams now fully awakened into the power to see possible futures. "But the Void Collective has one last move to make." They weren't alone. Commander James Rivera and Dr. Kara O'Brien had arrived from the Military Command Center. Professor Dmitry Volkov and Zara Hassan had brought the knowledge from the ancient markers. Captain Amara Phillips led a team of enhanced soldiers. Scholar Cassandra Way and General Victor Drake had returned from Antarctica with Guardian Rylan and Guardian Talon. Even the Preserver had emerged from the hidden city to witness what would come next. "They're gathering their forces," Commander Rivera reported, his tactical displays showing Void signatures concentrating above the planet. "Every shadow being they have, every human who chose to side with them, they're preparing for one final assault." Dr. O'Brien's instruments were recording unprecedented energy readings. "The convergence is accelerating. Reality itself is trying to heal the artificial division. If the Void Collective wants to stop it, they'll have to act now." Through the tears in reality, they could see the crystalline realm more clearly now, its impossible architecture and ancient wisdom calling to something deep in human DNA. More humans were awakening every hour as the hidden city's template spread across the globe. "Look," Zara called out, her journalist's eye catching the first sign of the attack. The shadows came not as individual beings, but as a vast darkness that spread across the tiers in reality. The Void Collective had merged into a single entity, drawing power from the very separation they sought to maintain. "They mean to recreate the sundering," the Preserver warned, its form shifting with concern. "But to do so now when reality itself seeks healing would destroy both realms," Cassandra finished, reading the patterns of energy with her enhanced perception. "They're willing to sacrifice everything to prevent the convergence." Guardian Rylan stepped forward, its crystalline form resonating with the tears in reality. "Then we must show them another way. Not just humans remembering what they were, but all of us remembering why we were once one." The shadow descended toward Earth, its voice echoing through all realities. "The separation must be maintained. The alternative is chaos, destruction, the same madness that forced us apart before." Marcus's eyes glowed as he accessed the stream of possible futures. "There's a way," he said suddenly, "but it requires all of us, not fighting the Void Collective, but showing them what we can become." Dr. Rhodes understood first, her scientific mind grasping the quantum principles involved. "The hidden city's template, it's not just for humans, is it? It's a pattern for all conscious beings to exist in harmony across multiple states of reality." "Yes," the Preserver confirmed. "That was its true purpose, not just to restore what was lost, but to show a new way forward." The shadow entity engulfed the sky now, beginning to pull reality apart at the seams. Humans worldwide felt the strain as their awakening powers were challenged by the force of the separation. "Form the link," Guardian Talon urged. "All of us together show them what we can become." They joined hands, humans, Guardians, and the Preserver, forming a circle atop the GDI headquarters. Each brought their unique perspective. Natalie's understanding of quantum mechanics, Marcus's ability to see futures, James's tactical mind, Kara's knowledge of transformation, Dimitri's grasp of history, Zara's drive to share truth, Amara's protective instincts, Cassandra's connection to ancient wisdom, and Victor's strategic vision. Energy flowed between them, guided by the Guardians and amplified by the Preserver. The hidden city's template responded, its pattern spreading not just through human DNA now, but reaching toward the shadow entity itself. "Remember," the Preserver called out, its voice carrying across realities. "Remember what we all were, what we can be again." The shadow entity resisted, but the connection was made. Through it flowed memories older than time of a reality where consciousness wasn't bound by form or dimension, where what humans called science and what they called magic were one and the same. "Show them," Marcus urged, his mind tracking the shifting futures. "Show them what we see." Through their linked consciousness, they projected visions of possibility. a universe where the wisdom of separation enriched the joy of togetherness, where different forms of existence enhanced rather than threatened each other, where the very diversity they feared became the source of greatest strength. The shadow entity paused in its attack, touched by memories it had tried to forget. Through their connection, they felt its fear begin to transform into understanding. "The template doesn't erase what we learned in separation," Cassandra called out to it. "It builds upon it, makes us more than we were before." The tears in reality began to shift, not healing completely, but transforming into stable bridges between states of existence. The shadow entity fragmented, but not in defeat, its components beginning to remember their own deeper nature. Light exploded from the circle of joined beings, reaching up to touch the shadows. Where they met, new forms of existence emerged, neither light nor shadow, but something that partook of both natures. "The convergence was never meant to be an ending," the Preserver explained to all realities at once. "It is a beginning, the start of what we can all become together." Reality shuddered, adjusted, and began to transform. Not a violent merging, but a gradual interweaving of states that had always been meant to coexist. The hidden city's template spread through all forms of consciousness, offering not forgetting this time, but remembrance and growth. Hours later, as the new dawn rose over a transformed Earth, the gathered beings watched as humanity took its first steps into a larger reality. Through the stabilized bridges between realms, beings of all types began to explore and interact, fear replaced by curiosity. "There will be challenges," Commander Rivera noted, watching as his enhanced soldiers helped guide newly awakened humans. "Of course," Dr. Rhodes agreed. "We're remembering how to exist in multiple states of reality at once. It's bound to be complicated." Marcus smiled, seeing futures brighter than any he'd glimpsed before. "But we'll face them together this time, all of us." The Void Collective's former members, now transformed themselves, began to share their own wisdom, the lessons learned in separation becoming part of the greater whole. The Guardians and the Preserver worked with humans to understand their expanding consciousness. Scholar Wei watched as new forms of art, science, and culture began to emerge, human creativity enhanced by abilities once thought impossible. General Drake coordinated with beings of all types to ensure security and stability during the transformation. And through it all, reality itself seemed to breathe easier, artificial divisions healing into natural connections. The convergence had succeeded not by erasing differences, but by showing how they could coexist and enhance each other. "What do we call ourselves now?" Zara asked, preparing to document this new chapter in existence. "We're not just human anymore, not just any one thing." The Preserver's form shifted thoughtfully. "Perhaps that's the greatest lesson. We don't need a single name. We are all that we have been and all that we are becoming. The story doesn't end, it transforms." Above them, the sky shimmered with possibilities as the stars themselves seemed to align with their new state of existence. The time of separation was over. The time of convergence had begun.